Renee, thanks for being here with How's the Weather. You, of course, are part of organizing this event and being a part of the campaign. Tell me where this campaign came from in the first place. Why the need for it?
Well, I guess it was about 2 years ago when we really started talking about the needs for women around housing and homelessness. And what we found, first of all, was that there was not a lot of collaboration going on amongst the agencies. And that really was because of funding pressures, you know, and just the varying levels of difficulties that women face. So there's lots of things that had to come together. So we kickstarted some conversations between some organizations and some funders, quite frankly, to say, how is it that we can better work together to provide the system of supports that are needed for women?
And what do you say to the critique with the campaign that it's focusing on women in homelessness as opposed to men in our community who obviously have needs as well?
Well, the needs of women are more complex, and that's essentially what this campaign is about, is to recognize that there's been a lot of focus on violence against women, services and shelter services for women affected, you know, by violence. But there are other issues that are underlying that often don't get served or recognized, whether it's, you know, economic disparity or whether it's, you know, loss of family or any other change. Sometimes for some women it's about coming out, where their families might say to them, you know, well, we don't really support the fact that you're a lesbian, so we're going to ask you to leave. And we've seen higher levels of homelessness amongst those populations that are quite vulnerable.
So what is the message of How's the Weather campaign? Tell me a little bit about the fact that it's called How's the Weather. What's that all about? And what's the message? What's the ask?
Yeah, so the campaign is really about a common message for Canadians. You know, we all talk about how's the weather. It's like how we talk about coffee or Tim Hortons or whatever, right? It's the daily conversation, whether you're at home or at the cottage or whether you're living in a shelter, quite frankly. So it's really important for us to kind of connect the fact that as Canadians, we have varying degrees of weather, right? So our lives change. So then if we kind of use that as a metaphor to then think about the fact that not everyone has a home to protect themselves from the elements, we can start to draw some good parallels around, you know, the fact that our weather changes, the conditions for women don't always change, the weather might be better, but the, you know, conditions for women aren't. And with this campaign, really, as you know, social media has been our great friend because we've been able to tweet the question, how's the weather in your world today? And people are starting to look outside the window and not just think about how's the weather, but they're starting to think about, you know, does everyone have a home? Does every woman have a home?
And we've even heard from somebody who has direct lived experience with homelessness who said that once she was able to find shelter, she was able to give back to the community and to do wonderful things with her life, and she's very inspired, and it's such a critical need. It's really an imperative that every woman in Hamilton, every woman in Canada deserves a home.
Absolutely.
And when we think about the weather, we need to think about that.
That's right. And you know, sometimes we think of home in such a way where we get comfort. It's where, you know, if you have a fridge, you can put food in your fridge. If you don't have that kind of place to do that, you can't shelter yourself from the rest of your life. So home really is the foundation, and that's where we really want, you know, everyone to think about the fact that does your mother, your sister, your cousin, your aunt, your grandma, whoever, you know, your nieces, do they have a safe place to stay tonight? So does everyone have a home?
And one last point on this, you know, couch surfing and home surfing and staying with friends and relatives, that's not the same as having a home and being able to build a life. And so that's an important distinction, and thank you for all the work you're doing with How's the Weather, Renee.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you.